Hello, 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 everyone. Let me just get Natania on. Hi, everyone. Welcome to an hour or so of wonderful conversation with my amazing friend Natania Goldberg, which I'm hoping to bring her up, go live with Natania. And looking forward to bring up a very interesting subject. Hey, here she is.
Hi, I did it.
Hi. Hi, Natania.
How are you?
Good to see you. Before you say anything, I want to just say a few things about you that it's why I admire you. I've known Natania for a good 12 years, and in the pursuit of well-being, wellness, in Willow well-being, uh, I found Natania as one of the most helpful people because she understands the system. She understands how we are connected and how this body and mind and all process of being come together. And I've had the pleasure of getting help from her on my own personal level, my family members, and the depth of the work that she does is amazing. So I just want you to tell our friends a little bit about yourself and why you got to do so many things and how they're impacting our conversation today about fascia, which I've learned about you. That's a subject that you brought up to me, and I've been fascinated by it, and that's why I want to share it with all of our friends. Hello and welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I've learned so much from you and Bonnie as well. So I'm really excited to be here having a conversation. I started in the fitness industry and wellness industry over 25 years ago, and my original studies were on movement and muscles and how to help people move better, get healthier, get into shape. And at that time, we looked really at isolated muscles. And it's kind of evolved a lot throughout the years. And I knew that there was always a missing piece to helping my clients get healthier, live, with vitality, move without pain. So things stop coming back. And that's what led me more into body work or more into myofascial or fascial work, because I believe that that really was the missing component in helping people be able to move better and without pain. And it has, there's so much more research still coming out. And I know we had a conversation about this, not just from the body, but from the mind, and how it can have a positive impact on that as well. So I'm really excited to share what I've been learning. I like to learn different methodologies and different ways to approach the body so I can look at it from different angles. And recently, all of my studies are coming to this one point, which is fascia. So there's many.
What is fascia? Why we call it fascia? What does it do?
So fascia is typically known as this continuous sheet of connective tissue that runs from head to toe, inside, outside your body. Originally I know when we first saw, this is like way back, we used to just take it away and just really want to look at the muscles, but it surrounds the muscles, the layers of the muscles, it extends to the bones, it surrounds our organs, surrounds our brain. I mean, it's a continuous sheet. It's like a spider web throughout our body. And I think the best way I like to describe it is, I once heard somebody use the grapefruit description, and I just so happen to have a grapefruit here. Look at that, immediate breakfast. So if we look at the grapefruit, closer to the rind, there's like a thicker, denser type of material, and that's more of like our superficial fascia right under our skin. And then if you look really close, ooh, that's a juicy grapefruit. There's different sections, of thin layers of tissue as well. And that's similar to our body. We have different types of fascia. And the grapefruit analogy is really cool in the fact that if we took the pulp out of the grapefruit, we can still see that the shape of the grapefruit and the different sections. And our body is similar to that if we remove the muscle, the fluids and so forth, we can still see the outline of our figure or of the lines of fascia from within our body. So I like to use this. I think it was a great analogy when I learned it.
Yeah, I love
And
it.
yeah, and then I also heard it described as your inner Spanx, if you're familiar with that. And that is a garment that you wear to shape and curve underneath your dress or garments. But I think a better way to describe it, if you're familiar, is it's kind of like your stockings or tights from within your body. And the reason why I feel that's a better description is if you're familiar, and you can also describe it to like socks as well, there's different fiber thickness in tights. There's different patterns in tights. We all know of the fishnets, which are the wider, pattern. There's heavier fibers, lighter fibers, based on what you want to do at that particular time with your legs. And it's the same thing from within our body. We have different types of fascia surrounding our organs, surrounding our muscles, surrounding different things. And they're made up of different components based on that, based on what we need them to do.
Amazing. Now, how does it impact us? So all of this encasing and the network that covers our bones, our muscles, our joints, inside of every part of our body, how does it impact us directly, and how does it cause us harm if we're not careful with it?
Yeah. So it does provide shape with which I just went over. Another thing it does is it helps us with movement. Mm-hmm. So fascia helps to absorb forces properly in the body. So every time you take a step down into the ground, you go jump rope, you do any type of jumping, you're placing force down into the ground, and force comes right back up through your body. So fascia is kind of like a tensile material in that it can lengthen when you step down. It can absorb force, similar to like when you're lengthening a rubber band, absorb the force, and then when it releases, it can then produce it. And this is a really key component, because that's the reason why you want your fascia to be healthy, because if you're rigid and it's stiff, you're going to not be able to efficiently absorb forces properly, and that can contribute to injury or pain. So keeping your fascia hydrated, incorporating movements that train the different lines of fascia are important. Also help with you being able to move efficiently and lowering your risk of injury, of course.
It's so fascinating that how our mind and body, they do the same thing, and the interconnection of this network of fascia and with the network of our brain, mm-hmm. and how they impact each other. You were talking about movement, and I'm thinking that without movement, our brain is not going to be able to even function and keep us stable and flexible. Mm-hmm. And then the opposite, when our brain is not functioning well, then our body is not going to be able to move. So I'm understanding that with the help of fascia, even we can have a better brain function, and also with a better brain function, we can even support our fascia and be able to kind of heal it also. So it's kind of a yin and yang. It's coming together, and the idea of this internet, this internal connection, that we are on it, kind of whatever that goes through us is connecting us through this energy system that in different philosophies you can call it chi, or the prana, or the body energy, and I think that could have something to do with fascia also. Is that
Absolutely. I mean, it is now known as the largest sensory organ in our body. And what I mean by that is it sends a heck of a lot of information to our nervous system and to our brain. It's the main way we receive information about something known as proprioception, which is our awareness of where our body is. It gives us our depth perception. It gives us how to be able to move in space. It provides information about temperature. It provides information about where our organs are. It provides information about the pressure, the stress. It's a main vessel for transferring nutrients, lymph. I mean, so all of this information absolutely is going to the nervous system, and the quality of the information is important, because if you don't have quality information going in, then those movements coming out, of course, will not be of quality. And I think you're right on the head start of this, or the forefront, because we're finding from some of the studies that I've read in regards to mind and body, they're finding that when somebody has and you've probably reviewed this, but when somebody has a traumatic event, if it's not digested properly, meaning if it's not processed properly, what tends to happen is it gets stored, and we now have a direct connection to how it gets stored. What happens is the body increases the tension in the fascia, and we also have found that there's contractile properties from within the fascia as well. Not as many as muscle, but also from within the fascia. So processing that traumatic event is really important to help with decreasing the tension, which ultimately can help decreasing the pain you have in a specific area.
I want to share with you something very personal. You know, the wheel of well-being and the concept that you've been familiar with, and you've helped us with different part of it. When I learned about fascia, it made it even more clear to me and what this is, because in the format of the wheel, we have those 8 components: physical, which you and I are talking about; the mental, which is connected; the emotional, which again, psychologically, if you're not feeling well, this fascia is going to not be functioning well; our environment, in our relationship, amount of the tensions we have, even if our financial situation, and our spiritual beliefs. So in all of these aspects of well-being, our fascia seems to be a common denominator of wellness and well-being. So if this tension in different parts of life is going to be remedied, is going to directly impact the fascia, and also the health of the fascia is going to directly impact all of these components of the wheel. And to me, that was really so interesting. I think that's where I really connected with this idea, because it made sense that how internally we're connected towards all of these external forces, that they kind of come in and go out of us, and then it's us who still needs to keep the stability, the base, the balance. And through that balance, we're going to be able to perform at our best, again, physically, mentally, emotionally, and the whole spectrum.
I really like that. It definitely makes sense, because like I said, like all of the studies I've been doing, it all comes to like this one point, which is fascia. So, I mean, I guess you can look at it like from the top down or the bottom up. How are we going to affect the mind body and create that balance for everyone, so we can all live, you know, towards vitality, towards health, and be in a good mind. So yeah, I think you'll have to recreate the wheel then. I can give you some fascia designs.
That's beautiful. So let's jump into the ways that we can help this fascia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's your expertise, and how we can keep the vitality and the energy of the fascia in a way that is distributing more support and less absorb more pressure, and clears the system out.
Yeah. So our fascia is predominantly water. So the number one thing I always say is, you know, make sure you're getting your proper water intake, and it doesn't need to be a lot. You know, so I'm walking around with gallons of water, but you want to make sure that your fascia is hydrated. Number 2 is also movement. And this is where I specialize, because everybody's body is different, from left to right, from person to person. And it's not just, you want to get up, and sometimes it's as simple as thing as moving or going for a walk, but you want to be able to move to make your fascia be efficient for you, or work for you. There's a book out called Anatomy Trains. It's one of the first books I started reading when it came to fascia. It's by a gentleman named Tom Myers. He's extremely popular and a pioneer in the fascia world. And he studied under Dr. Ida Rolf, who I will talk about in a little bit, the creator of Rolfing. And he found that there's these continuous fascial lines from within the body, that if you took them out, it would be like one continuous fascial sheet. So for example, you have fascial lines that go from the bottom of your foot back to your heel, to your Achilles tendon, through the calf, up the hamstring, across the sacrum, all the way up to your cranium, one continuous line. So by finding these lines, we're able to train accordingly and make our fascial lines work for us. So movements that are multi-directional, movements that are not just linear patterns, and really using the body for how it's meant to work. So a really great movement coach can help design that for you, and they can also find what systems you might want to, or fascial lines you might want to strengthen, because we are seated a lot. And, you know, if we are seated a lot and there's no mobility, what happens to the fascia is it gets kind of fuzzy, and tight. And there's a great video out by a gentleman I haven't had the privilege of meeting in person, but he also is a pioneer that I follow in fascia. His name's Gil Headley. And I actually have his video saved on my YouTube channel. It's called The Fuzz Speech. It's been around for a while in the fitness world, but he really makes clear the importance of keeping movement in your life, and you don't want to build this fuzz from you. So movement's important. Having the proper dosage of movement. So when you move or you're doing exercise, you create these little tears in the spider web, you know, network in your body, and you have to be able to let it repair. You want to give the right amount of movement and the right amount of recovery. And if you don't let that space happen, then all you're going to be doing is continuing to break down the tissue and fascia. So it's really important that you get specific on when you're doing your movement and when you're getting your regeneration. And there's multiple ways to do that. You know,
unfortunately, a lot of people, they're gym nuts or exercise nuts, and they keep on going at it, and they want to build muscles, and they want to kind of create this stability, not knowing that they actually not helping themselves, because the tear down that is coming with it without the rest is going to just be creating injuries and traumas, which is going to be much harder to deal with.
Absolutely. I mean, I work with some athletes at UCLA and some other, you know, professional athletes, and they spend millions on their recovery and regeneration. It's the most important. You know, I get a lot of people coming in times and they're like, oh, I hurt my back. And I go through and I ask how they hurt it. Oh, I just went down to pick something up and that's it. It doesn't happen like it can if it's really like a blunt force kind of, you know, injury, but you want to think of it like a wet rag. And I like this analogy because if you first take a rag and it's wet and you keep twisting it and twisting it and twisting it, it's not going to break at first. It might fray a little bit, you know, and then eventually there's the tear, the final straw. So that's why you want to make sure your regeneration it's sometimes even more important than making sure you're getting the workout in, because of daily life these days and because of the stressors that we have. It's even more important. And I have a good track coach that once told me, he was like, train hard, recover harder. You know, your greatest gains are absolutely in your recovery. That's where your body will repair and build back stronger. And that's where the regeneration and the mindset and the mindfulness really comes into play.
In my line of work, I emphasize a lot on breathing for everything, you know, because that breathing is allowing our body to release the tension and pressure, especially in the diaphragm area, which I believe is still, again, connected to this fascia. And so I guess my question is that how is our breathing impacting this fascia, and how important it is?
It's one of the most important, and we can go in a lot of different directions with this. In regards to your body being a pressure system and having, you know, the fascia work for you, being important in regards to taking a breath in and oxygen and letting the air and letting the carbon dioxide out. You also, when you breathe, you activate your autonomic nervous system, specifically, I think, with the breath out. And what this does is it helps with the regulation of movements or processes from within our body that we're not able to control, meaning digestion, heart rate, things like that, like directly, I mean. So when you breathe, it actually activates the side of the autonomic nervous system that helps us rest and digest. And that's why sometimes you might notice when you're going for a massage, your stomach might go, you know, that's a good thing. We actually looked for that because we were like, yes, he's relaxing. So that's how it can directly impact it. And having a good balance in this autonomic nervous system is important, because as I discussed in trauma, sometimes we get stuck in the fight, the side of the nervous system that has us like high stress, full drive, full foot on the gas pedal.
We call it freeze in my line of work.
All right.
So
Yeah.
we go through freeze.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it can go both ways. It could, your body can freeze, or it can totally just like, stop and give out. I get stuck in these places. Like I have clients that sometimes come in with really, really high tense, like high stress or tension. But then there's the other side where they kind of just, it needs tension. It needs to bring the dial up a little bit because they've been their nervous system shut them down in that aspect. So breathing, I think, is one of the most important things, as you mentioned, because it's really going to help us get that balance to the sympathetic nervous system. And those things are actually important also when it comes to pain in certain areas.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. So that's a big topic, because we all have pains and bruises and aches and this and that. And would you say that a lot of this could be remedied if we can take care of the fascia more, and we're going to have less pain?
Absolutely. I think it's a combination of the mind and and the fascia, the connection between the two. I was reading some studies. I can't quote them exactly, but they were taking a look at the thoracolumbar fascia, and that's the fascia. It's like a triangle shape in our lower back. And I think about I don't know what the statistics are now, but 80% of the population has lower back pain. And we used to think it's coming from the discs or the muscles or the nerves. It could be the nerves and these things. But what we're finding is when we do have this tension from within the fascia, from within the muscles, it can actually push on the nerves, creating pain. Trauma can get stored in that area, as we discussed, creating the tension, leading to the pain. And sometimes doing techniques for the mind. I believe you do
EMDR.
EMR, am I correct? Yes. Its study actually directly connected that treatment to helping decrease pain and decrease the inflammation in that area. They actually tested the fascia prior. They had somebody else that didn't do that treatment and then tested the fascia after. And they saw such great results after the person had that treatment.
Which the reason is that, when we're in that freeze state, in that stuck position, the fascia or even some of our organs, like our lungs, are restricted in their capacity. So when we are able to do the bilateral movement, which is part of the EMDR, is releasing information that's stuck. Earlier I talked about us being like an internet. So imagine if this is the internet and there are some glitches into the system, some disconnection with the server. You're not going to be able to process information. And through EMDR, we're opening up the blockages that the process is stuck. And because now it's an open space and the information is going back and forth, that release is happening and the fascia is getting more open.
It's incredible. I mean, and we're still finding out more and more. I try to keep up to date on it, but more keeps coming out every day. So
and from what I was studying, it's still a new science of understanding this fascia. And they still do not know a lot about the direct results of things on it, yet they can see that there is a lot happening that could be completely related to the lack or over tension of the fascia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're finding out more and more each day, and I love keeping up to date with it, and I love tying in, certain modalities with it, because it can really help. And that's where I wanted to talk a little bit about Rolfing, because I did mention Dr.
Please, that's very important.
I did mention Dr. Ida Rolf.
I learned about you also, and I did a couple of them with you, which is I'm really happy that you bring it up so everyone knows about it.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm a movement coach. I also am a state certified massage therapist. And I wanted to find out more. The reason why I went to this program is I would work with people, and let's say somebody came in with neck pain. I'd work on the muscles like you typically do in a massage. They would ease the neck pain, and it would provide temporary relief, of course, but they would continue coming back with the same symptoms. So I was like, I want to be able to help people lifelong. And when I looked into Rolfing, it really seemed like that missing link. Because Rolfing was created by Dr. Ida Rolf. She was a biochemist, and she really looked at the fascia kind of like this, like you could mold it and it gets stiff and tight. And she's the one that started first drawing the connections of these lines. And Rolfing really focuses on all these different fascial lines and all these connections. And it's a slow, I would say myofascial or deep tissue massage. It can be slow in certain areas. The spectrum of touch, it used to be known as being really painful, but it's not. I mean, we've really evolved a long ways. Even the lightest touch can create change from within the tissue. So it really helps to regulate the autonomic nervous system because it's a slow movement. It really helps to align the fascia, but more importantly, it's a movement education. So you can go into a massage and have somebody, let's say, relieve, if you have a tight chest, like relieve those tight chest muscles and it feels great. But unless the nervous system is hooked in to the right pattern to keep you in that better position, it will continue to go back. So that's where the beauty of Rolfing also comes in and other modalities is it's tissue work and movement education. And that goes back to the internet we were talking about, is we need the internet to be, or this highway to be sending us good information and then be able to learn how to communicate back properly to provide the right movement. So it's all coming together. So I love Rolfing for that aspect, in that it helps to align your body properly in relation to gravity to allow you to move with ease and to get all the energies balanced properly so you can heal yourself. It's a great experience, and I highly recommend it. I love working with clients with it because it really gives you a user manual to your body that you can take lifelong.
So let me understand it correctly. So when somebody learns about Rolfing, they can do it themselves, or?
You know what? I love that question. You've just opened up like, so please stop me if I go on a tangent.
No, I love to learn,
Also, Rolfing right now is typically done, and there are different schools. It's also known as structural integration, and there are different schools. The Rolfing, Dr. Ida Rolf Institute was the initial one. So you can only call yourself necessarily a Rolfer if you went to the original school, but there's many other practitioners that do similar work and great work. Right now, you would go into a practitioner and they would work with you. They take a look at your alignment. They suggest positions. They work on your fascia. But I'm a strong believer. I mean, the best way for you to connect with your body, you have also a lot of receptors in your hand. So learning how to work on your fascia yourself is also a great tool I like to give my clients, so they won't necessarily moving forwards have to rely on somebody to do it for them. But the first steps, you can go in to see a practitioner for it. Absolutely.
Very good. Any other tips on how to work on this fascia and improve upon its health?
Yeah, I mean, I like I mentioned, training in different planes of motion. There's different ways to be able to address the different types of fascia. So, for example, you have a thicker fascia, so the Achilles tendon. There's great ways to be able to address it through jumping rope or hopping and things like that to help not only move the fluids but also challenge it in that ways. Fascial stretching is fantastic. They actually found a huge connection between stretching and helping with pain and recovery. It has a relaxation effect. Also, acupuncture is a great way. They found that inserting the needle stimulates the receptors from within the fascia that send signals to the surrounding area for it to relax. So all of those great ways to be able to approach the body and in essence connect with the mind are fantastic. And back to fascial stretching, it's different than regular stretching because we're not looking at the muscle, the effect of the muscle. We're looking at the fascial line. So, for example, a fascial stretch for your calf might not just be, I'm going to take your calf and stretch it. It also might be you also flexing and extending from your cervical spine because that fascial line goes all the way up to there. So we take a look at both ends and look to create the mobility through there. And the other thing I would like to mention is not all the times do we need to lengthen or relax a muscle. It's important that in sometimes a muscle actually needs some more tonicity. It actually needs some strength. So having a good balance between the stretching and the kind of like inhibition of the muscle and the activation of it, having that balance is really important. So you want to make sure that you're getting that good strength in as well for the muscles that need it. And there's ways to be able to test for that as well.
Something that has helped me a lot through years has been yoga, which I believe that is very helpful in many ways, not only just the fascia and the stretch of it, also the mind part of it and the meditative quality of it. Because when I was looking at the studies, they started to find that meditation and mindfulness helps the fascia a lot. So when you are in a state of mind that your mind is open and fluid and is not focused on certain things. So when we're stressed, when we're thinking so much, when we're overwhelmed, generally everything falls apart in the body and we have all of these backaches, shoulder pain, pains show up.
Yes.
So through yoga, what I've learned is that again, you cannot push hard in anything, and yoga is the same. If you figure out the practice of yoga that's having meditative qualities, for me, what happened after a few years of doing yoga was I started kind of seeing this internal web or the connection that I can kind of imagine in my body. So when I have pain and aches and restrictions, then all of a sudden it's almost like a light that goes on in my head, and I figure out where I'm stuck, where I'm not, and what kind of movements I need to make to release this pain. So I believe, and again, you can see if true or not, that it is really, really helpful to have a practice that your body and mind are working together, whatever that is. It could be walking in nature. It could be, just sitting by a beautiful river and having that mindfulness, or you can be stretching and doing your some physical work with it. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm such a strong believer in the mind, doing movement with the mind or the awareness, like you were talking about with yoga. My mom loves playing bridge, loves it. It's like one of her favorite things to do. And it keeps her mind sharp, the thinking, more importantly, the community. But she also does Tai Chi, or, which is something great, a great practice also. Because if you think about it, it's the practice of not just being aware of where your body is in space and the flow of the movement, but it's all about transferring weight also from one foot to the other. And that's the number one thing you need to keep a balance with as we tend to age. That's the number one thing when you're getting out of the bathtub or the shower. You need to be able to balance one leg to the other and transfer force. So I think the connection between the mind and the movement, like Tai Chi, I think it helps the fascia even more because it's utilizing it from all the angles as you discussed. It's utilizing it for increasing our proprioception or awareness. It's having our mind come into play, and it's making us more aware of our body, which is truly important. And I think one of the most important things. That's why I love teaching clients how to utilize their own hands to be able to feel the fascia, to be able to feel what's going on in their body, because then your brain can map that particular area best, and you'll be able to access it in the future. And to share a funny story, not a funny story, but I started working with the world champion of Kung Fu. And originally why I did it is I wanted to find a different form of movement that challenged my fascia, that challenged my brain. And I haven't done something like that in a while. I'm typically a linear sport athlete, like a runner or a swimmer. And boy, is it challenging me, but I've never felt better because I'm learning about these different forms. I have to hold and move my body in certain positions for these forms. And it's interesting for me to find the disconnect and the connects that I have, and it's actually helping me feel better throughout the winter months. So I'm a strong believer in those mind-body movements and connections. Whatever you want to find something you love. Sometimes going back,
Exactly. Have passion about.
Yeah, sometimes going back to the sport or similar sports, what you did when you were younger, when you felt alive, you can do it. You know, there's a lot of different ways. I mean, if you're nervous about getting injured or, you know, then get a coach. And it doesn't need to be a lifelong commitment. You don't need to work with somebody every week. Get a couple of sessions with somebody that understands you, understands the sport, can cater something to you so you can do it safely and effectively, and then go out and have fun. Because movement is what keeps us going. And I've heard numerous times from many people just to get up and move, and sometimes it makes the biggest difference.
Absolutely. So there's so much more that we can learn from you. Hopefully, I want to give good news to everybody who's following us and is on this page that our real community platform, and Natania is part of this beautiful environment. And again, we're hoping to have a lot of your contributions also on this platform. And for anyone who wants to become a member, the site is community.wheelerwellbeing.com. Community.wheelerwellbeing.com. We just want you to come in and be a partner with us because we want to learn from each other. We want to improve upon the knowledge that can put us on a better path in life. And I really appreciate you, Natania, for being who you are, being in our lives, and bringing it now to this real community. And hopefully you can give your information also and put it on this live post, so people can reach out and experience what a wonderful experience I've had with you through these years. Something I haven't told anyone is that for years you used to be the head of the programming in Equinox, and you were the one who made it possible for everyone to have fun in that place. And you know, so when you talk about having compassion and fun, I guess that's what makes you enjoy doing what you do, and making it so wonderful. Thank you for everything you do.
You're welcome. And if I could say one thing, I've realized that there's like something hanging out over here on my shoulder. Sorry, that's Mr. Bone.
Thank you for showing it. It looked a little bit disturbing, but I didn't know what it was.
I was like, wow, I'm hanging out with somebody's intestines. So that's Mr. Bones. That's my famous skeleton, and he has his organs. Because
you're taking it out of the closet now.
Yeah, which is a whole other ball game. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy.
So are we going to be talking about that the next time?
I would love to.
Okay, so you're on.
Yeah, I would love to.
Well,
so for having me
again.
I hope I've been able to give some pearls to help some people out there. So thank you.
It's restarting. Thank you so much, and have a blessed weekend. And bye, everyone. And see you on the Wheel Community or on the Instagram. The Wheel Community is a membership only, which we're opening up right now to only our close friends. If you cannot get in, let us know, and we give you the code to get in. Thank you, and have a wonderful time.
Bye.
Bye.